On this edition of the program, are the Democrats actually winning the shutdown? Pam Bondi testifies for the first time in front of the Senate, and I got robbed. It's all coming out.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics program for October 8th, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you here on the show. And we're going to have Bill Scher on. We're going to talk about politics. We are going to talk about whether or not the Democrats are actually winning the messaging war during this shutdown. But I want to start by explaining for our audio listeners why my audio sounds like trash. And the reason why is that I do not have a microphone, at least the microphone that I use when I am on the road, which I am. I also don't have my webcam, which I have. That is not around. Nor is my bag or my laptop or any of my clothes. That is because out here in the Bay Area, despite living in Oakland for 9 years and not getting what they call in the town bipped. Bipping is when somebody walks by and smashes out the window, grabs all the stuff out of your car. It indeed happened to me and my wife and my child. Thankfully, we were eating at Burma Superstar, but a denizen of the city of Oakland came by, smashed out the window, sending shattered glass all over where my infant daughter was sitting not long prior, and took my laptop bag and then both me and my wife's bags, personal bags. They left our pack and play, so that was nice of them, as well as a diaper bag, but everything else was gone. Oh, and a bag of stuffed animals. Those apparently don't fence for much these days. It's a shame, really. But I just wanted to start with that, and not on a woe is me kind of thing. Look, I'm aware that parking in Oakland in a rental car is something that paints a gigantic target on your back, but that's kind of the point. That's what I want to talk about, and especially when we have everything that's in the air when it comes to Chicago and DC and the concept of National Guard coming into cities with quote unquote falling crime rates. This experience reminded me of something that I very much was a part of when I lived here. And that is the idea that we deserve it, that there's something wrong with being able to live in a city like Oakland, a beautiful city that has some of the most gorgeous weather that I've ever experienced, a rich cultural heritage, and I think a incredibly diverse and amazing population. That for some reason, a price for that is rampant crime. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case for Oakland. I don't think that's the case for Chicago. I don't think that's the case for New York. And I don't think that's the case for a lot of other cities that don't have the same kind of tax base that any of the ones I just mentioned do. Because everywhere that I just mentioned has a very, very high tax base. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, behind me here in the San Francisco Bay Park area is the Chase Center. There's a brand new state-of-the-art stadium that was built for the Golden State Warriors. And I think it exemplifies my trip that I just took here, exemplifies this city, because I left the Soma district. That is the South of Market district. And in the garage I parked in, because I wasn't parking on the street again, it was swarming with fentanyl addicts, just like you see in the TV and on the internet. The exact same crowd. The same Hondos that are dealing the fentanyl, the same leans, the same poop on the ground. And this is, again, in one of the more glittery areas, or what is supposed to be one of the more glittery areas of San Francisco. A city that currently has just yet again found gold. in artificial intelligence. In fact, the reason why I'm here is because OpenAI works in that building, the one adjacent to the Chase Center. What bothered me is that when I told friends that were here that we got robbed, the number one thing that was said, and again, I would say when I was here is, well, yeah, rental car. Not that's horrible, not that's bad, not that's, oh my God, I can't believe that this keeps happening. It's just an accepted normal part of your daily life. And I'm not here to point fingers. Well, no, I am here to point fingers. I'm here to point fingers at the fact that there is less political will to solve a problem like this than I think that there should be. I think that there does need to be some kind of stepped up police presence, or there needs to be some kind of active organization to find out where these organizations that fence the materials that are found in this car in these cars go, because I don't think that this is, again, another thing that you hear a lot of, an act of desperation, that it is a single mother who has, no choice but to break into my car and steal my bags. Because if it was a single mother, they would have taken the diaper bag. I believe, and I think that there's evidence to show that this is an organized crime ring. So why does weaponized empathy, something that abounds in the glorious Bay Area, why does it permit that? I got theories. Sometimes at my most conspiratorial, I wonder whether or not there are gangs that are paying off politicians. But in general, I do think that it's well-meaning people that, for whatever reason, don't want to face this problem. And I don't mean to say this in any kind of activist way for how the Bay Area is going to act. Look, if the Bay Area was going to act the way that I wanted to, I'd probably still be here. I do want to say that the lived experience in some of these areas, especially as we talk about federalization, is something that we should keep in mind. Not to say that what Donald Trump is doing currently in Chicago or in D.C. Doesn't have constitutional problems or isn't fully legal, but I've heard from a lot of liberal listeners in cities like this that are frustrated and fed up. I'll leave you guys with this, mostly because my arm's getting tired because I don't have a phone stand anymore to hold. There was no expectation that a cop was going to come and take our report. When I called 911, they directed me to a website, and that was that. I'm going to be made whole because I booked my car with an Amex, and they have a very generous travel policy. But for the city itself, well, how kind is it? Even if the people that broke into my car were poor, probably black men from either East or West Oakland, how generous is it to them that their city doesn't have a more robust tourism industry? How generous is it for them that there are not better paying jobs? I don't think it's particularly generous at all. Them's the breaks in the big city. Okay. There will be no update because I'm going to minimize the crap sound for you guys. We're going to go right to our friend, Bill Scher. We are now moving into our second week of the government shutdown, and there is an emerging narrative. We talked about it a little bit on our Sunday show for all of you subscribers. Are the Democrats winning the messaging war here to the point where they not only shouldn't blink or look for an exit, but really press the advantage? And to have a conversation about that, we will talk to our friend, Bill Scher. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Great to be with you again.
Before we get into the specifics here, because we have not talked to you throughout all of this, what are your priors on shutdowns in general, and how did you view the landscape going into this one? Because it seemed to be, at least on some level, a little controversial even within the broader Democratic camp.
Well, as you may know, I've written about shutdowns for a long time.
Yeah.
And my priors have long been that the instigating party, the party that is bringing in an unrelated demand to keeping the government open, loses the shutdown. And some people say, well, Republicans had a shutdown, they still won the midterm. I'm not talking about the electoral result a year from now. Yeah. I'm saying the demand that was being made never becomes realized through the tactic of shutting down the government and taking it hostage.
And tends to get less popular even if it was popular before or more popular.
Well, I would phrase it a little bit differently, because often the assumption is, oh, I have this popular issue. This polls well. I'm going to shut down the government and advocate for my popular issue. But what happens typically is you take the attention away from your issue and then shift it towards the damage you are causing by shutting down the government. And so the only way you would, in theory, gain negotiating leverage is in the court of public opinion. But if your party's standing drops because of a shutdown, you lose negotiating leverage. And once that becomes evident, the instigating party has no choice but to surrender. And this has happened every single time going back to our shutdown history really begins with Newt Gingrich in the 90s. And whether it's a opposition party doing it or sometimes it's the president himself doing it, which happened with Donald Trump in 2018, 2019, instigating party loses. And so in this case, the Democrats are the instigating party in pushing for, I want you to extend these expiring healthcare credits.
The COVID era Obamacare supplements.
Now, having said that, what I wrote going back to the summer was that so it's not a good idea to shut down the government to try to make a demand, but and also typically speaking, I would say, look, even if you're the opposition party, like we don't have a parliamentary government. You have governing responsibilities. Don't shut down the government. Say if they're a pity party, saying, "Well, I'm not in the majority. It's your problem." You have certain obligations as part of society to keep the government open. But in this case,
and here we go.
And this is what I was saying back in the summer. You have a majority party, a Republican Party that has operate in bad faith. Democrats helped keep the government open in March. And what do Republicans do? They went back on the deal. They went back on the funding levels that were agreed upon and did what they call rescissions. In one case, through a congressional vote, which was legal. They legally rescinded money for public broadcasting and foreign aid, but on a party line vote. It was the quirk in the law that allowed it to circumvent filibuster. And so it's legal, but bad faith. You made a deal and you went back on the deal. You made a bipartisan deal and went back on a partisan vote. And then you had Donald Trump doing a unilateral rescission.
So you would say the bipartisan deal was agreeing to the resolution to keep the government open in March,
right? With certain funding levels for the appropriations for the rest of the fiscal year. And then Donald Trump did his own rescission unilaterally, which arguably you can argue that's unconstitutional, illegal. Supreme Court didn't agree, but nevertheless, Democrats have every right to say, "I can't do business with you." We agree on numbers, and then you go back on those numbers. And your budget director has even said publicly, we need a less bipartisan appropriations process. So I think the logical conclusion is, if you don't want us around, good luck. Go open the government by yourselves. And don't tell me you can't eliminate the filibuster to do it or suspend it, because you've already done that for other things like judges. You're not particularly enamored with rules and norms. So don't blame us if you can't keep the government open. This is on you. If you want to be bipartisan, we're here. If you want to put something in the bill that says you can't do a rescission, fine. Otherwise, you're on your own. That's how I would have done it. And Democrats didn't do it that way. Some of that rescission talk is in the mix a little bit, but the biggest thrust has been we want to get these healthcare credits extended, which puts them at risk for being blamed. But what has Donald Trump done? Donald Trump has said, hooray for shutdowns. I get to fire more people. I don't want to talk to Democrats. I don't want to have real negotiations. So he's taking more ownership of it than he really needed to. And so the polling so far shows that, more blame Republicans and Democrats. It's probably just really the partisans on both sides. It's not so much the middle. And the poll number that I think is really the most important, which it's early, so I can't draw sweeping conclusions yet, but I haven't seen movement in it yet, is generic congressional ballot.
I've seen noise. Yeah, I've seen noise around there just right before we went live that one poll that had it previously tracking at D+2 now is at D+5.
Oh, cool. Okay. I mean, even more reason for Democrats to say, hey, this is all working out for us. I mean, Democrats are really tanking there. Then I think you would see more panic. You'd see more argument for, get this behind us, climb down. If they're winning congressional generic ballot, why do they have to move?
Well, so this is my thought on it, is that you've got a few things working for them that I did not expect. I found the messaging from the Democrats to be very, very muddled, up to and including whether or not they are causing a shutdown or Donald Trump is causing a shutdown. But that has seemed to work in the favor, at least in terms of how I interpret the meta right now, because the shutdown can kind of be what everybody wants it to be. For those who want the fight side of the Democrats, then this is definitely them doing that. For those who want to look at this as a reckless Donald Trump administration doing yet another thing that is damaging to the country, people can look at it like that. But at least you're not splitting your base when it comes to what they are doing and how it's looking going forward. The other benefit to them is that Democrats haven't really been the instigating party, as you pointed out. This is something that is rare historically, at least in terms of the messaging of it. And I do think that there's a little bit of an overhang for people that are not following it quite as close, that are like, oh, the government shut down? Republicans. What are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do next? Of course they're shutting down the government, not even realizing the specifics of this case. What I wonder is whether or not that's the case a week from now, when you actually start to see some of the atrophy and damage that comes from a shutdown, which usually doesn't start in earnest until a couple of weeks into it and then really ramps up like a month into it. And that's usually where you've seen movement on shutdowns in the past, when you start to see paychecks not hitting or checks not hitting mailboxes in the way that they would otherwise. So but part of me says, and I really am of two minds here, and I'm willing to eat crow on the idea that I thought this was a bad idea that was almost exclusively done because Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are weak leaders. But like, if this is going right, the two minds that I have now are like, well, are you benefiting from like a week-long halo of past performance of the Republican Party, or is this really something where you had three senators that initially voted for the House bill? One of them now is saying, well, maybe I'm not going to vote for it again. Maybe I want to be on the side of the fighters going forward. Like, is this now a more entrenched position for Democrats? And to be totally honest with you, I don't know.
Well, I think it's entrenched on both sides. I really don't see how this would end, really short of Republicans doing it on their own by suspending the filibuster.
Well, there is the Gabe Fleischer of the Wake Up to Politics newsletter has the theory that this shutdowns were a product of an attorney general decision,
right?
And that if Trump told Pam Bondi to reverse the attorney general's position on shutdowns, he could just end the shutdown unilaterally without doing the filibuster.
That argument, I recall that. That quirk in the interpretation of the law being discussed before.
But if we are looking for the most Trumpian way that the shutdown ends, right, Trump telling Pam Bondi to do a thing and her doing the thing would probably be the most Trumpian way, if we are going to forecast in that particular style.
Yeah, I mean, they are very willing to assert executive powers and dare the judiciary or Congress to stop them. So whether you're doing it through filibuster rules or attorney general interpretation, if they really want to keep the government open, they could find a way to do it on their own. And because
is that good for Democrats?
I mean,
if they are not a part of some kind of reopening,
none of this is likely to matter a year from now. I mean, it's very rare that but Democrats, certainly to keep their base happy, had to show fight. I mean, there is genuine disturbance at how authoritarian and corrupt the administration is, to just sort of meekly abet it by accepting whatever is put in front of them, knowing full well that the numbers themselves could be completely changed at Trump's whim. I mean, what is an opposition party doing at that point? So they have to do as much as they can.
Well, they don't have many moves as an opposition party in this position.
Well,
anyway, right? This is pretty much. I mean, it's like you have to fight a messaging war. Find what you want to fight on for the midterms. Try to gum up as much as you can on the other side, and then you have this, which Democrats have been loath to do in the past. But I guess Trump, in so many ways, is a breaker of norms, and in this case, breaker of norms in the other party.
Well, I mean, elections are base plus swing.
Yeah.
So base always wants fight. Swing is more sensitive to basic responsibility. So they don't necessarily like the idea of you doing an irresponsible thing just to make a base happy.
Yeah.
But in this case, Trump is owning the irresponsibility. I'm happy to shut down the government and fire more people along with it. So if Republicans, I think to circle back to what you were hitting at before, I mean, if Republicans had a messaging structure that was, boy, this shutdown is really bad. It is bad for the safety of our travelers. It is bad for families that want to visit national parks. It is bad for the civil servants who rely on these paychecks. And we have to solve this problem first and foremost. But everything else is secondary. We're going to move heaven and earth to make sure we solve this problem. And we have a clean bill that has no poison pills in it whatsoever. And it's solely Democrats' fault this isn't happening. If that was being hammered over and over again, Democrats are probably taking it more in the chin right now. That's not the message coming out of the White House. The message of the White House is like, "Oh, you Democrats, you like your government so much. See what I'm going to do to it next." That's not good messaging. You have to
be somebody that has written about this for so long, and specifically in a certain way. I can't help but look at this. This is like a bizarre Freaky Friday kind of world where it's like it is an ill-fitting suit for both parties, at least from my vantage point, because you're right. The Republicans don't know how to effectively hammer the Democrats in the way that the Democrats have effectively hammered them in the past. Part of them, because there is a constituency within the Republican Party that loves shutdowns, that thinks shutdowns should happen more often, that we should be shutting down the government and seeing what breaks because they believe that it is overbloated and we could probably shred it anyway. And Russ Vought certainly, Russ Vought and Trump are certainly amongst that camp. But then also with the Democrats, they don't have. I mean, you still see Schumer coming out here saying this is on Trump, which is like the whole point of shutting this down is to say no, we are putting a thumb in the Trump administration's eye, but they're kind of getting away with it for now, at least in terms of the inability to focus it. But regardless of whether or not that's good or bad, is there anything from your vantage point? You look at this and you're like, man, what a weird world. We're going to see midterm ads that are going after House Democrats saying that they shut down the government in a way that I
don't think any of this is in midterm ads. Really? I mean, unless it's still shut down at that point, which frankly is not an implausible scenario. But assuming that we're not shut down,
but you don't think in swing districts where that would play that's not going to be something that's in ads in the same way that the Democrats hammered Republicans on this for years and years and years in the past.
They'll be talking about immigration and transgender issues and all the hot button culture war type stuff to scare the pants off of the swing. They're not going to talk about governmental processes. But Democrats are, I mean, again, as much as I didn't like the idea of making healthcare part of this, they are building a narrative that I think will extend, which is they are the healthcare party, that the Trump administration cut Medicaid, cut benefits, before made things worse by letting these things expire. You elect us, we're gonna move heaven and earth to fix these things. That's.
I mean, but this issue might be done a year before. I mean, like this issue might be done the day after the government reopens, theoretically, because the Republican Party is split
Republicans compromise on this eventually. They might see the wisdom.
Well, I mean, I think that they might have compromised on it no matter what. Like the question is whether or not they want to tie it. If anything, I think a solution is further away away now, because now it would be a part of blinking on a shutdown as opposed to where it would naturally end up, which is like, I think a majority of Republicans would probably wind up kicking the can, be into kicking a can down the road solution at the very least. There are certainly a few, and I've heard from a few people from inside the House that are dead set on letting these things expire and trying to be an accelerationist when it comes to Obamacare in general. But like, I don't know. I mean, from my vantage point is that there was probably going to be a deal on these by the end of the year, which is the actual deadline on it.
I mean, I saw no indication the Republicans were trying to solve this. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know anything to really base that on. There is a political logic to doing it. And Trump has not always been ideologically rigid on these sorts of things. But
he apparently drove Thune and Johnson crazy when they did their one sit down, because he just, in talking about it, told Jeffries and Schumer, like, oh, well, why don't we just do a new Obamacare? And then Thune and Jeffries had to, pull the fire alarm to get him to talk about something else.
Right. So I don't discount any possibility in that regard. And now some people were saying, hey, Democrats don't give Republicans a win on health care by trying to cut a deal here. But I think Democrats have, again, you have to be responsible. You can't be playing political games all the time. So for Democrats to say, look, we think this is important, like this is an actual thing that people are using right now, and it is expiring. I'm not going to just sit on my hands and let it die just so I can make political hay with it a year from now. I got to think about the people whose lives are really in jeopardy in the moment. And so they're going to earn their stripes by fighting for that. And they're going to try, and they're never going to play those cards come 2026, because the big feature of the big, beautiful bill is destroying Medicaid. And that's not just for poor people, it's for middle-class people too. And they're going to run hard on that.
Yeah. I mean, that happens after the midterms, so they won't have things to point at before, but certainly they're going to run on it. I mean, they're essentially running on it right now.
Well, I mean, Republicans ran on Obamacare in 2010, even though it wasn't implemented yet, because they ran on. It was enough in the news that you could gin up fears about what was coming around the bend. And again, it's not like Republicans haven't softened the edge on this. They've owned all these cuts, and they don't have a track record of being reliable in healthcare. So I think that's going to be pretty fertile ground for Democrats.
Where do you think it ends? You're a student of this. Let me lay out a few scenarios for you. And if you want to go off the board, you can go off the board. There's the one that looked more likely right at the beginning of this, when you saw 3 Democrats defect in the Senate, which meant because Rand Paul doesn't vote for CRs, they would need 5 more to go that way. So it is a rank and file revolt against Schumer, which Schumer might actually like, because I do think it's an open question how much he likes this particular situation right now. Or it is some kind of bargain where maybe it's not in writing, but a handshake, that there's a vote on the subsidies the same day that they vote for the continuing resolution. Which of those two, or if you want to go off the board, go off the board?
I mean, it's always hard to do rational political analysis when Donald Trump is involved, because he could roll out of bed one day and just come up with an idea that's not what he'd said the day before. He could just decide one day, what, this reality TV show is boring. I think we need to turn the channel, and I got to suck it up and cut a deal with Democrats today. Who knows? But everything I see so far, I do not see much political incentive on either side to come up with a negotiated solution. And I see things that Republicans can do on their own. I mean, everything Trump has done from the beginning of this term is asserting executive powers, or trying to strong arm Republicans in Congress to do things on party line votes. There has not been a lot of energy towards negotiated bipartisan solutions. Why start?
There has not. Yeah, I mean, But I don't know. I mean, like you've put Trump in the center of this. Trump seems kind of, from my vantage point, removed on this particular thing. Now, obviously, at any moment, he can very much insert himself and be the center of attention on any moment. But this very much does seem like a Democratic base, Schumer, Jeffries, and then by their counterparts, Johnson, Thune, kind of show here right now. Like Trump seems more excited to talk about literally anything else, up to and including Ghislaine Maxwell, Puff Daddy, and Greta Thunberg.
Well, also sending the military into cities.
Yes.
I mean, Trump keeps doing crazier and crazier things. Like Shutdown's not even the biggest story right now. Normally Shutdown would be dominating everything.
The number one story, yeah.
Right. And so other insane things are happening that it seems like just one other, like we've had shutdowns before. We haven't had the president send the military into cities before. And so that's arguably the more disturbing thing happening right now. So again, there's, and when he does things like that, when he uses racist deep fakes to mock Democratic leaders, when he tries to,
that was a little. I think Jeffries overpressed that. The sombrero thing.
It's not conducive to negotiations and compromise.
It is certainly not.
How is Jeffries
they were
and
ginning
Schumer
themselves up for a shutdown right now? Like I don't know.
How can Jeffries and Schumer?
The outrage on that I thought was a little over the top by Jeffries.
How can Jeffries and Schumer walk into a room with Donald Trump and negotiate a deal when that's how they're being treated? It's humiliating. It gives more incentive to dig in your heels. Nobody was making a deal in
that room anyway.
I'm sorry?
Nobody was making a deal in that room.
Maybe, but you're not creating the circumstances where you're going to get to yes when you're playing those kinds of tactics.
Yes, there is certainly not a scenario. Although I don't know, I part of me, and this is probably not helpful for the country. Then it's like well, all right. At a certain point, if everybody's calling each other a fascist, racist all the time, then like. What is one sombrero meme, on the other side? But then again, on the other side of that is like, hey, if you are just doing a meme lord S posting, and that overshadows what would otherwise be a sign of respect to somebody that you do want to have a serious conversation with, then, it is a pretty bad way to start a conversation.
If I can just go on a slight tangent, and this is
please
fueled by my pettiness.
We love it here. We love it.
One of my shutdown articles was in response to Ezra Klein column in the New York Times, which was written before the shutdown began, where he kind of sketched out what the Democrats are currently doing, which is you find a small set of issues to really hang your hat on. What Trump is doing is so beyond the pale. You can't be a handmaiden to it. So you got to stand your ground. And he had argued that. Democrats would have leverage in that circumstance. And I mean, he gave multiple reasons, but one of them was that since Trump owns the government now, and the whole Doge thing is in the rearview mirror, that they're going to be concerned if the federal government is not functioning properly because it's their people running it now, and so it matters to them. And I said at the time, that makes no sense at all. They're decimating the CDC. They're military. They're steamrolling the Constitution all sorts of ways. They're denying FEMA aid for red and blue disaster areas. I see no evidence they care about how government functions. They care about the militaristic parts of it. They care about ICE, and they care about the National Guard, and they care about using them in ways that are disturbing. But beyond that, I don't see much caring at all. And I think that's what has played out. So Trump cares about the parts of government that he can fully control and use as his playthings, and the rest of the social service part of it he doesn't care about. So. How is that conducive to any kind of negotiated solution? I don't see it. Maybe if enough Republicans say to Trump, we're getting hammered here, you're botching this, get the government open, however you do it, just get it open. That's how it likely ends, but again, they can do that without the negotiation. There are ways to do that unilaterally.
When, from your vantage point as a student in this, do you think there is more urgency that comes along? Like Is it at the month mark? Is it at the 2 week mark? As
It's at the mark when something really bad
votes pile up.
happens.
Okay.
If a plane crashes because there's something wrong with the federal air traffic controllers, that's going to accelerate things.
Yeah.
Normally parties are sensitive to poll data.
Yeah.
This Republican Party is not sensitive to poll data. They dismiss poll data. They count it as fake news. They feel like they've defied gravity before.
Well, sometimes, unless it shows them doing something well. In that case,
sure,
then it goes up everywhere.
They're not going to believe that bad poll numbers today means they can't win the midterm tomorrow. At least Trump's not. Now, if you have 30 vulnerable Republican House members and maybe a few senators saying, "You're screwing us, man. If you don't want to see Democrats get subpoena power in 2027, you're going to stop this because we're getting destroyed." If that happens, then maybe Trump, thinks twice. But I'm not even sure Trump even cares that much about the midterms because he doesn't care about passing legislation. He cares about exerting executive power, which he can do regardless of who is in Congress. Does he care about the subpoena power? I don't know. He's not going to get impeached.
Well, I mean, he certainly doesn't care about passing legislation now because he passed his entire term's worth in one shot, right?
I'm not even sure much he cared about that. I mean, he got it done.
Yeah.
But I don't think
he
that's
certainly
what drives
twisted
him.
arms. I know he twisted arms for it. They were all hands on deck for that. But I agree with you in general. Like right now, I don't know how much he cares. I mean, I think he'll care when something breaks and it didn't get fixed by somebody, and he'll blame somebody for it. But
exactly. Like, even that next goes back to the Ezra point. If something bad happens, if something breaks, the default Trump position is to blame somebody else, not to take responsibility for it. So even that doesn't necessarily automatically make him, snap into action.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what happens over the next week, because the one thing that I held out on is that I did think that the Democrats were in a weaker position because fundamentally they are built on the idea that the government matters, and it is important that the government stays open, and that the longer that goes, the more that there will be a cognitive dissonance with elements of their base that go beyond the people that are jumping up and down and screaming about starting a fight right now. But I don't know when that hits or if it hits, because I thought, and apparently 3 senators did too, that was going to be more of an immediate snapback by the public, and that has not happened right now.
I mean, I have not seen Democrats push this point. I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene push the point that I made, which is Republicans can end this right now. They don't need Democrats to open up the government. They can suspend the filibuster and pass the bills themselves. That is something we're in a weird political moment when Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Iglesias are on the exact same point. Right. So even if something really bad happens, Democrats can say, this is on you. You don't have to do this. They seem to be reluctant to say that because they want the negotiation. They want to talk about the healthcare part of it. But that is a legit way to say this really is on you. You are the majority and you have the power to fix this on your own, however you want to do it. If you want to do it with us, then part of that deal is...
This is how we do it. Yeah. Yeah. Part of me thinks that if, it would be a big move for Thune to do a filibuster change, this early in his tenure. But if I don't know. I guess maybe this is also, if we're talking filibuster, we're on the road to it going away anyway.
Exactly.
Democrats were, only a mansion and a cinema away from doing away with it during the Biden term, and maybe it's going away no matter what. The question is, who has to own being the one that does it. Thune certainly carving out, like, for shutdowns or for CRs or something like that would be a huge step in eroding it. But maybe if we look back in 10 years, we're like, yeah, who cares? It was all collapsing within a few years anyway.
I mean, I think you've read me enough, and I might have talked about it on the show before. I like the filibuster. I'm not saying
Me
this
too.
because I have an ulterior
the
motive to
filibuster.
destroy the filibuster. I think it's a good thing. I think it has served. I mean, not that's always used well. Any tool can be used for good or for bad.
Yeah.
But I think it has been a stabilizing force to ensure that we don't have tyranny of the majority. But I can also read the writing on the wall. It barely exists as it is. The Republicans used the nuclear option to suspend the rules to do another tweak in the judicial confirmation process to expedite more judicial confirmations. 3 weeks ago, they are not enamored with the filibuster rule. Someone's going to do it when they feel like they have to do it. It exists solely in name only. So what are you holding on to it
I
for?
don't know. I think what happened 3 weeks ago, considering the blockade that the Democrats were throwing up for even non-controversial nominees, I don't know. But to your point, largely, whether or not it's good or bad or how these things are going down, the reality is that extreme positions are being taken, and I would not be shocked if either in this term or another term we see the filibuster go away.
On the long list of destructions of norms and rules that has happened in the last 9 months, if you added suspension of the filibuster to that, it would be like 1,027 on the list. So it seems bizarre to me the Republicans are being so precious about it right now.
Well, I mean, you know why? Because the legislative Republicans are different than what's happening in the executive branch right now. Like, there are still people that really, really care about the Senate that are involved in that
Why would
process.
they believe the Democrats are going to keep it when the tables are turned at this point?
I don't think that they do. I mean, I think that they believe that the Democrats ran out their two people. The two people that dared stand up for it are not in the chamber anymore. So maybe
right.
Fetterman is the new.
But Fetterman's anti-filibuster. I mean, it's not even a moderate position in the land that the filibuster is a good thing, because for most people it seems archaic and ridiculous. And not conducive to pass legislation.
It does separate the Senate from the House. That is the big thing, is that there requires some level of consensus. Although maybe it'd be worth it just so the Senate has a little bit of their own ego about being the country club versus the truck stop taken out of them.
It's pretty truck stop these days in the Senate, so I don't know.
Ooh, brother, is it? All right, so you don't have any. If I gave you the over under of Halloween, where would you say this ends?
Oh, I think this goes past Halloween.
It goes past Halloween.
I think this will be the longest. The longest shutdown ever was the last one for Trump, which is 35 days.
Yeah.
And that has an asterisk on it because it was a partial shutdown because some appropriations bills had been approved. This time we have no appropriations bills approved. I think we'll go past 35 days easy.
Wow. So this lasts into the holiday season.
Well, so we started on October 1st. So this would, I think, at least goes into November. I won't predict beyond that, but I just, what is happening now to suggest there is progress? Nothing. It's just deeper and deeper entrenchment.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but then again, it's like the coverage and the highlighting of it. You're right that like the one thing that is different about the way that Democratic administrations have handled these things is that this became the entire story. Everything that they were talking about, if they were, having the head of Azerbaijan in for a diplomatic thing, Obama would start the conversation by saying, well, we have a shutdown government to keep the heat on Republicans for doing it. And that is not the case here. Trump has focused on so many different things. So, yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's crazy.
If you live in a liberal base community, which I do,
yes,
the thing that makes you anxious in terms of national politics on a day-to-day basis is ICE or the military coming to your town. That's what's on top of mind for people on the left right now. And government shutdown is not what is weighing on everybody at the present time. Because just talking about base right now.
Base, yeah.
And what kind of pressure is would be put on Democrats.
But that's the other. That was the other thing that I thought was going to play against the Democrats is that all the stuff they want to stop, they're not stopping. Like they're stopping things that are totally unrelated to the stuff that they're really, really animated
But they're not
about.
betting
Like
it
you
out.
said.
They're not funding it. They're not doing anything that's going to put their fingerprints on the money that goes towards it.
Yeah, but it's still happening.
I mean, they only can. I mean, they are the minority party. They can't stop assertions of executive power. The only people who are going to do that are the judiciary.
They're like, we hate these ICE raids, and so that's why we're not going to go to a national park because
I'm not saying that that's part of the Democratic messaging. I'm saying that if there was to be pressure on Democrats from the base to capitulate because other government agencies aren't functioning right now, you're not seeing that because that's not what is agitating the base right now. What's agitating the base is what Trump is doing to militarize the domestic land.
Yeah. Well, we will have to see. Over on Halloween, says Bill Scher. Where can we find your writing?
Washington Monthly. I'm the politics editor of the Washington Monthly. You read all my shutdown commentary there. WashingtonMonthly.com, and I'm also active on Blue Sky under BillScher.bluesky.social.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that will wrap it up for us today. Politics. Written and recorded by Justin Robert Young on the road with, duct tape and gumption. Thank you to Will Saddleberg, our editor, for getting this done. Again, apologies that we don't have my Pam Bondi thoughts, because I did tease it at the beginning. My Pam Bondi thoughts are that, what are we doing? I mean, it's just so ridiculous to have these back and forths. I don't believe that Pam Bondi presents as a particularly credible attorney general, but it seems like the money's in the fight these days, and that's what's going to happen. We will do more stuff here. I just didn't want to subject you guys to any more audio like this than I absolutely had to. At least the Bill Scher stuff was in an enclosed room. Everything else is just me running and gunning on the road if I don't want it to be late. So thank you to everybody. You can go check us out all on social media. Justin R. Young everywhere. Politics on YouTube. Of course, you can sign up to subscribe at Substack, TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Hey, Barry Weiss, look, you got $150 million for your Substack. What do you say you go and just subscribe to mine? Or maybe David Ellison. Come on, baby. I can go for 10x my actual revenue. That'd be a pretty nice payday for me. Bring me on to CBS. There you get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. We did our Sunday episode. We will have our late edition. It'll be probably a little later than it normally is for travel reasons. So it'll come out probably during Thursday as opposed to late night Wednesday. And then we will have our regular Friday episode that will be at least partially recorded inside my studio in Austin, Texas. But if you want to hear your name read on the show, read on a good mic, you got to sign up for our foundational tier, which you can hear, the names for which roll the tape, Will.
But of course, it is our founding tier that gets their name read at the end of the program, including Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes, oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Stephen, and Zombie Doc. If you'd like your name read on the show, come on down.
And that wraps it up for us today. Till next time. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young from San Francisco, California, saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and still more discuss politics. But this is the only show that dares discuss. Oh, 3
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.